You find me this morning in search of a small piece of ash wood. Now, I happen to know that they cut down a diseased ash tree not so long ago. In fact, there was a video of it being cut down a few videos back. And there's a pile of logs around here. And what I need is a piece of ash to repair an agricultural implement. A scythe, in fact. Because in a couple of days' time we're going to be shooting the next Pagan Calendar photograph, which will be to do with the harvest and the festival of Lughnasadh, or Lammas as it's sometimes known. Welcome to Colganology. This scythe dates from about 1910, 1912. It's an American style scythe, and it was found in a barn by some friends of mine who ran a farm at the time, and they said I could have it because it was no use to them, and it was no use, it's not even as if it would work properly because the wood had rotted right at the top of the main shaft, or I should say right at the top of the snath, because every part of a scythe has got a brilliant name. The actual main body, the main shaft, is called a snath, S-N-A-T-H, or sometimes known as a sned. And the wood had rotted at the top, so the attachment for the blade, or chine, as it's called, was very, very loose. So what I had to do was rebuild that head using this new piece of ash. But now the scythe is all firm, it's all been, the wood's been treated, and it's all ready to go. The various parts of a scythe have some fun names. The long blade is called the chine, the back of it is called the back, and the blade is called the edge. Then the bit that fits into the ring on the top of the snath is called the tang, and that's got a knob, and then you've got the little handles about halfway down that are called doles, nibs or nogs. Easy, eh? So why on earth did I feel the need to renovate an 100-year-old scythe? Well, it's because we're now moving on to the next photograph in the Wheel of the Year Pagan Calendar, which is to do with Lughnasadh, or Lammas, and that's all about the harvest. And what we're going to have is a harvest goddess with a scythe out in the fields. Our initial idea, what Mark and I wanted to do, was put our model in a field of wheat or barley, but the crop is very poor this year, I think because of all the flooding we had earlier in the year, so the crops aren't very high. And secondly, all the fields that we had plotted out as suitable places to go and do the filming have been harvested already. Basically they've gone through with the combine harvester and they've all been harvested. Now that wouldn't be an issue if they still use the old style haystacks and hayricks, because that's got a nice sort of traditional feel to it, but most of them are done by modern combine harvesters and balers, and you get those big round reels or the big square blocks, and it just didn't look right for the tone of the calendar. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to film here in these wildflower meadows, because we've got nice waist length grass here, and I think we'll still get the feel of it. So Mark and I are out in the meadows now, and we're looking at a perfect location, the right sort of line of sight that will give us a nice image of late summer, looking forward to autumn and the start of the harvest season. And I'm quite lucky. I mean, you'll know these fields anyway if you're a regular to my YouTube channel, because I walk on the fields with the dog every day, but it just seemed a perfect place to do the filming, bearing in mind that we couldn't go where I initially wanted to go. So our model Raiven has arrived, and we are now going to set up the shot here. We've got an amazing dramatic sky in the background there, and we thought all this lovely wildflowers with the cow parsley and the rosebay willow herb, it's just going to look really stunning. We'll get some real colour here. I'll just shut up now, let Mark get on with it.
In fact, actually, yeah.
There with me?
Oh, I'm bearing.
Just trying to get a sense of how this is going to look with the silhouette against the sky.
Beautiful.
It's great, isn't it? So what's today's photograph all about? Well, it's about Lughnasadh, or sometimes called Lammas, which arrives at around the 1st of August every year, and it's the part of the wheel of the year where the harvests start being brought in, particularly the harvest of grain, you know, your wheat, your corn, your barley, etc. And it's when the combine harvesters come out, or in the old days the men with scythes would come out and start cutting down all the wheat and the barley and the corn and stacking it up in haystacks or hayricks, all ready to be gathered in and kept as, well, some of it be kept as winter food for the animals if they decided to keep any animals through the winter, because quite often they'd slaughter them and have the meat through the winter and start with fresh animals the following year. And of course the grain would be ground up and turned into flour, and from that flour would be made the first new bread of the year, which is where Lughnasadh gets its alternative name of Lammas, because Lammas is the Christianized version and is a corruption of loaf mass. It's when they held a mass, a religious celebration to thank God for the first new bread. This was always a very busy time of year for anyone who owned land and anyone who grew their own crops. It's why, incidentally, your kids get 6 weeks off school in the summer. It's a leftover from the days when the children of farmers and the children of smallholders couldn't be spared the time for the luxury of education. It was all hands on deck to get the harvest in. See, every day's a school day, except in August. But now you know why. Lughnasadh also indicated busy times ahead, because the harvest wasn't just cutting down a couple of fields of wheat or barley or whatever, it was also gathering in enough food to see you through the dark half of the year, when, you know, there'd be no crops in the field, and if the weather was particularly inclement you couldn't even go out, and people would stay inside their little peasant hovel, you know, huddling around a fire for most of the winter and hoping they make it through. Times were tough in those days. But this is also, you know, a time of bounty, because the sloes are appearing in the hedgerows and the hawthorn berries, and, you know, all right, the cherries are pretty much gone now, but the apple harvest is coming in as well. It's also an indicator, of course, that summer is coming to an end. All right, we've got a little bit more summer yet, but summer is coming to an end and the autumn is coming. It's going to start getting darker. We've already passed the equinox, so already the days are getting shorter. There is a ceremony peculiar to where I come from in Cornwall called crying the neck, where when the last sheaf of corn or wheat or barley is cut, the man with the scythe picks up that last sheaf, which is known as the neck, holds it up in the air and shouts, "I have he, I have he, I have he." And the other workers shout, "What have he, what have he, what have he?" And he goes, "The neck, the neck, the neck." Of course, in the olden days, before the English imposed the English language on the Cornish, this would have been shouted in Cornish. And I did find this little clip on YouTube of it being performed in Cornish in the modern day.
Ma gannet! Ma gannet! Ma gannet!
Hundreds Guinness! Hundreds Guinness! Hundreds Guinness!
Penyor! 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 Hooray! Hooray! Hooray!
Now that particular ceremony may be unique to Cornwall, but similar sort of ceremonies happen all around the country, and it's not at all uncommon for the last sheaf to be cut, to be made into a corn dolly, or to be made into a sheaf to be kept inside the house through the winter, to keep the spirit of the corn, to keep the spirit of the grain alive throughout the winter. And then when ploughing begins in spring, that sheaf, that dolly, is taken out and ploughed into the field to put the spirit back in. I think that's rather nice. So we're now into a second location, which has got this wonderful view down through this field, with Raiven standing out there looking very goddessy.
How's that?
And
Up and high enough and high enough?
it's looking fabulous. It's looking fabulous. You are the goddess of the harvest. No arguments. So we all done?
All done, all done.
Are you happy with that exotic model?
Yeah, I just didn't get to use this, unfortunately.
Oh, you
but,
didn't
you know,
know.
it's maybe I could use it later.
Well, we have discovered, I mean, Will has discovered that that's actually a left-handed one.
Really?
So we look at the shape of the blade and which way the blade would go.
Oh yeah, of course.
And this is a left-handed scythe, so presumably the farmer from the farm where this came from, presumably it was a left-handed farmer, or one of his staff was left-handed.
I just can't believe that somebody would have to use that or this to do.
Well, they would have in the
something
olden
as big
days.
as that.
In the olden days,
That's
there would have been a team of scythe men going down through here, cutting down all the, and then the women would gather and come along behind and draw it together into little ricks, stack them up into the haystacks, and
crazy.
leave it to dry. Yeah,
It's crazy.
it's a lot easier when you do a combine harvester and a baler, isn't it?
Yeah, oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely. I just hope we've got some really good shots because it's a lovely place.
Oh,
So,
we have. Trust me,
perfect.
it's Mark. We've got good shots.
Yeah.
So there we go. That's photo number 2 of 8, or possibly 9, because obviously we need one photograph for each segment of the Wheel of the Year and a cover. And trust me, the finished photograph is almost had me in tears. It's so beautiful. It's stunning. Mark is an artist. He's not just a photographer, he's an artist. And what he can do in post in terms of colour balancing and enriching things is just absolutely stunning. Who needs AI? It's absolutely beautiful. Next up, we have got Beltane, which is May Day, and we need to get that done while we got lots of foliage and leaves on the trees. And for that, I have made a full-sized green man stroke horned god costume. You know, with all the details and the horns and everything. I built it all from scratch. The video for that will show the making process as well of the costume, and it'll look amazing in situ in some forests and woodland, and when it's worn by the model, who's a guy called Jay, who's got a massive red beard. It's going to look absolutely fantastic. It's going to look stunning. And this afternoon, Mark and I are going to the Hellfire Club. Yes, indeed. If you're a fan of Stranger Things, you'll know all about the Hellfire Club. What you may not be aware of is that there was a real Hellfire Club back in the 18th century. So in the 1700s, a lot of very rich men, lords and barons and sirs, you know, knights of the realm and that, would meet up for gluttonous parties, possibly a little bit of orgy stuff going on, and they would also hold sort of pseudo mock religious festivals. They weren't Satanists or anything like that. It was more a bit like sort of the Masons, I suppose, really, or the Shriners, where they had their little ceremonies and costumes and things like that, and they dress up as monks. And in order to do this out of the sight of the public, the guy who was their boss, who was called Lord Dashwood, he owned a big estate in a place called West Wickham, that's about 4 miles from here. And he had a group of workers dig a whole set of tunnels and caves into the side of a chalk hill that he owned, and they became the Hellfire Club Caves. They're now open to the public, but we have got permission to shoot in there. So what we're going to do is, for our Samhain photo shoot, for our Halloween shoot basically, we're going to use one of the caves in the Hellfire Caves, and we got a lovely idea for making that photograph look really good. So that's what's on the horizon for this calendar in the very near future. So if you liked this, watch out for the next video, which will be coming in about a week. And don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss it. And I'll see you then. Oh, and before I say toodle pip, anyone know anyone who wants to buy a second-hand scythe? It's all very well renovating a scythe, but what do you do with it afterwards? I don't know. Toodle pip. If you've enjoyed this video, then please consider subscribing. Or click on some of these links to look at some of the other videos on the channel. Or press the like button. Or leave a comment. It would be lovely to hear from you. Any combination of those 4 things would be wonderful. Thank you very much.